Want to learn how to start a nonprofit in the state of Georgia? Keep watching. Hey there, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. So I help people start nonprofits and raise money from the ground up. I basically teach you how to do it yourself. And I want to do a video on how to start a nonprofit in the state of Georgia. And this was inspired by some work I just did to help somebody. I guided them through the process of starting their nonprofit in Georgia. And as I was doing all the research, I realized this is a lot. I should do a video on this. Now, I have done a more broader video on how to start a nonprofit, which is generic really for any state. If you need help with starting a nonprofit just generally, you need to check out that video. It is over 40 minutes and it has over 90,000 views on YouTube. Check it out. I'm linking it above. But this video is specific things related to Georgia. And so I'm not going to walk you through, every little thing step by step, but I am going to point out the things you need to be mindful of that are especially different than what I've seen in a lot of the other states, or just things you need to know about when you're doing it. Now, the general process for starting a nonprofit goes like this. You incorporate your nonprofit in the state, and you usually go to the Secretary of State's office and you fill out your articles of incorporation. If you need help doing that or don't know what that is, I'm linking a video above, which establishes you as a corporation. Not every nonprofit is a corporation, but most of them are. And when you're setting up, you have to set up as a specific nonprofit. Then the next step usually is you getting your employer identification number with the IRS and then applying for 501c3 status with the IRS using the 1023 or the 1023 easy form. That is the general way to do it, but it's so much more in Georgia. So let's walk through some things. One of the first things you want to do is a name search to figure out if your name is actually taken in the state, and make sure your name can be different and distinct from other corporations that have already started in the state. The other thing you got to keep in mind is that there are certain naming conventions that are required in the state. So if you are a corporation, there are certain things like company or Inc. that you have to have at the end of your name. So you just got to be mindful of that and check the rules with the Secretary of State so that you are following the law when you're naming your organization. The other thing is you got to have a registered agent in the state, and that is a person who is able to receive official correspondence for the business. And so if you get official mail from the state or you get official mail from the courts or things like that, it needs to be somebody who's at a physical address who can actually receive correspondence in the name of your organization. When you are incorporating in the state, just be mindful, because this is true for a lot of other states too, that the typical articles of incorporation, like the typical template that the state provides for you, does not include all of the information that's required for you to get 501c3 status. There is some language that the IRS requires that should be on your articles. If you know you're getting 501c3 status, that's not included in the documentation that the state of Georgia provides you. So you got to make sure you have all of the provisions that the IRS wants to see in your articles, and please make sure they are listed in there so you don't have to apply and say that you don't have the language in there. Because when you get to the 1023 easy form or the 1023, the IRS is going to ask you, is this language in here? All right. Also keep in mind in the state that you have to create your own articles. So you have to draft the document and then submit the document online, right? Now I'm recording this as of March 2024, so some of this may have changed. And as always, this is general advice. You need to look this information up for yourself, but I'm providing a couple of links to help you figure out where to go, specifically with the Secretary of State's office in Georgia, so you can look at this information for yourself. This is just for you to be aware of what's out there. Another thing you need to be mindful of after you incorporate in Georgia is that you have to publish the fact that you incorporated, and you have to do that the very next day after you file. Okay, so you have to publish in an approved publication. It can be a law publication, but the state of Georgia has a list of clerks that can guide you to the right place where you can publish the information so that people are aware that your organization has been created. That is a fee assigned with that. So it's not only just a fee to submit your articles, but there's also a fee and written language that you have to submit when you are submitting your notice. And the good thing about the state of Georgia is that they do provide sample language that you can use. So they do have a template that you can just pull from and send to the publisher so that they can put the information out there for you. Within 90 days of you getting your articles of incorporation, you need to submit your annual report to the state. So usually in every state, once you establish your business, you have to regularly report to the Secretary of State to update them on what your business is doing and to update them on key shareholders if you're like a for-profit, or who's on the board if you're a nonprofit. And so typically that's done on an annual or biannual basis. But in Georgia, within 90 days, you have to file this report. Now, that's not uncommon because I've seen that in other states, but I just want you to be aware so you don't miss any key deadlines. Also, when you're doing this process, start pulling together your bylaws, because that's some of the documentation that the state wants to see once you have to start submitting paperwork on a regular basis. So at this point, you're at a place that once you get approved for your articles, that you would then go to get your employer identification number with the IRS, and then you would then apply for 501c3 status with the IRS. Okay. Once you are approved for 501c3 status, you have to submit that information to the state, and you have to submit it at this point through the mail. And you want to submit it certified with the read receipt to make sure that they get it and to make sure you know that they get it. So the state doesn't have, as far as I have seen, their own state income tax exemption process. But in order for them to not charge you for state income tax, you need to submit the paperwork that you got from the IRS, your determination letter, your articles, your bylaws, things like that, to them so that they're aware that you actually are tax exempt. The last thing you want to think about in the state of Georgia when you are starting a nonprofit is charitable solicitation. And that is just you registering to be able to solicit for donations. Now, Georgia is one of the states that requires this process. Not every state requires it, but they do. You may be exempt from this registration if you're not making over $25,000. Please read the rules carefully. I'm giving you, again, general information. So you need to determine if you're exempt or not. Don't rely on me to tell you that. But I'm just letting you know they do have an exemption. So you don't necessarily have to register if you're not making a certain amount of money, or if you're not raising or getting a certain amount of money donated to you. But you need to register once you know that you're going to be making a significant amount of money. You need to register to be able to solicit for donations in the state. And that process is involved. That process requires people submitting their names, their employment history, doing a background check, all those things so that the state feels comfortable with your organization asking for donations. So just be prepared, because that is a detailed process that takes some time, and there's also a fee associated with that. And you don't want to put that off. If you know you're going to be raising a significant amount of money that's over the threshold that Georgia has for their exemption for this process, then you need to apply. You need to go ahead and take care of it. And if you are soliciting for donations in a different state, you're no different. So if you're in Georgia, you started your organization in Georgia, but you're getting a significant amount of donations from like California, you need to apply using California's process in addition to Georgia. So just keep that in mind. I also did a video on this. So if you need more information on charitable solicitation, I'm linking it above. So I just wanted to throw some things out there. I didn't want to do another step-by-step because honestly, every state is so different, and you know, if I try to do step by step, I'm going to miss something, or something's going to be updated by state law, and you're going to come on this video and be like, you missed this or you didn't say this. I'm just providing like some of the things that I noticed that you should be aware of. Don't forget this part in the process, but I really encourage you to do your research and look it up for yourself so you're well informed. Even if you're getting somebody else to do it for you, make sure you are well informed so you know what they're doing. Too many times I've heard people, you know, have somebody else do it and the person didn't do it right and they have no clue what happened. So stay informed. That's all I would encourage you to do. If you need help raising money, make sure you sign up for my Activate Your Purpose and Profit Community, it's an accountability group and a place where you can get advice and help with raising money. If you need help with starting your nonprofit, visit me at bossonabudget.com, and I will see you in the next video.